Hello and a very warm welcome back to Widowed AF. You're here with me, I'm your host, Rosie Moss. Every week, a guest from the forefront of widowhood comes on and tells me their story. And I'm always really delighted when I've got a male voice to share. And today I have just that. I have Derek Tweedie all the way from Australia. But be warned, this is not an Australian accent. Good morning, Derek, or good evening. How are you?
Good morning, good evening, good night. Yes, it's very good to be with you, Rosie. Yeah, I'm amazed you didn't pick my Australian accent. I've been here 35 years or something, but the Scottishness gets
there's nothing going to take that Scottish accent out, is there? 30 years you've been over there. Wow. Yeah. So presumably you moved over there with your wife, Judy, and your boys. Oh, no, you wouldn't even have your boys, would you?
No. I can tell you how we met. It was a sliding doors moment.
I love this. Yes, please.
So Judy was working in Edinburgh in a bar. She's an Australian girl and was an Australian girl and was. And she was nursing a broken relationship the night I met her. She was actually heading back to Australia. It was like 2 or 3 days before Christmas, 1989. And I had been out on a real big day out, as Christmas day outs usually are. So I can only describe myself as being kind of elegantly wasted, I would imagine.
That's kind.
But I sort of wandered into this last bar before I went home and met a friend, and he was with a very attractive girl. And he said, "Hey, Del, can you help me out here? See that girl at the bar? She's an Aussie and she's miserable. She's going home tomorrow. And to be perfectly honest, she's cramping my style." So, that's the height of romance in Scotland in the late 80s. I said, of course, Mac, I can do that for you, my friend. So I had no idea what to say to an Australian girl. I never met one before in my life. And all I could think of was, "Hey, Judy, have you ever heard of a band? I love this band. They're new. They're Australian. Nobody's ever heard of them here. They're called Crowded House." And she looked at me, didn't say a word, and she gave me this look, which I've soon learned to be called the Judy look. And she just dropped her hand into her bag and pulled out a cassette tape of Crowded House.
That's dating, yeah.
And 2 years and a bit, 2 years almost the day we got married in Melbourne.
Wow. So you just upped and off you went to Australia?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of letters and phone calls, and she came back and she had me on a long leash for a while. But yeah, we decided to be honest, we were kind of a bit like two lost souls who would kind of find their soulmate, And I went to Melbourne. I didn't know if I'd stay or whether she'd come back to Scotland, but I loved it, and that's where it all began.
Wow. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, 1989, early 90s, there's no internet, there's no mobile phones, there's no Facebook, WhatsApp. You can't just pick up a phone and message anytime, day or night. You would have had to schedule in contacts, wait weeks for letters. Yeah. I'm getting all kind of caught up in the romance of this. And when I met Ben,
like that.
Yeah. When I met Ben, it wasn't the 80s, but we didn't have, mobile phones in the same way we do now, WhatsApp and things. So I used to buy these cards that meant I could phone a number in France. He lived in France, and it would only cost, 10p a minute, and to stop my mum kicking off about the phone bill. And I can remember, methodically putting in these digits. And I'm thinking, now you'd just make a phone call, wouldn't you? The world has changed so much.
I remember those things, but do you know what a phone call cost back then?
Oh, God, I don't imagine.
And lucky I was a sales rep and I was on a very good expense account. But it was £1 a minute to phone Australia.
Yeah, just outrageous.
How their man survived, I'll never know.
And were your parents around? How did they feel about you, buggering off to the other side of the world?
Well, that was, they were relieved. I actually found someone after all this time. I hadn't had many relationships, to be honest, and I could talk about something really bad happened in my past when I was 20, but perhaps best not to go there. But it kind of affected my life for a few years. And I was never really in a serious relationship until I met Judy. And I think it kind of, I just knew that something was happening here that had never happened before.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
it's different,
I was
isn't it?
getting on a bit. She was getting on a bit. So it was just, it was meant to be, you know,
Yeah.
kismet. Yeah.
Oh, and so you move out to Melbourne and you get married and you're building your life over there. And I know from your application that you've got 2 grown-up boys now, so you have children. So life, presumably, I mean, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, why on earth would somebody leave Scotland for the sunny climes of Australia? It must have been absolutely idyllic.
Yeah, well, Melbourne's not really that sunny.
Oh, is it not?
I mean,
See, I've
well,
never been to Australia. It's showing, isn't it?
well, it is actually the summers. It was quite an upgrade weather-wise when I first moved there, but the winters in Melbourne can be pretty bitter. Not like Scotland, but
I was going to say,
they did get on your nerves after a while. But up here in Noosa, which is like it's one of Australia's best holiday resorts, to be honest. And we after 20 years in Melbourne, we built a house and extended that, and the boys were born, and life was just one big adventure. It just everything seemed to go so well, and we made a lot of money on that house, and it enabled us to pay off our mortgage and have our dream to come up to the place we go on holiday every year. And
wow.
we came up here and built this house I'm in now in Noosa. That was about 16 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, everything, I used to pinch myself, you know.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's really bittersweet, I think, when you are aware of how lucky you are and how happy you are. And like you, I was very aware of it, not all the time. You know, I had 3 kids under 7. You know, my life wasn't always sunshine and roses. But I can remember saying to my mum, you know, days before Ben died, God, you know, how did my life turn out like this? Because, you know, like you, I've kissed a few frogs and life's been a bit turbulent at times. And I felt finally I'd found peace. You know, I was with somebody who I loved, who loved me. Like you, we'd finally reached a point where we were financially secure. We had lovely plans. And I'm so grateful that I was aware of it, because I'd hate to look back and think, oh, I took it for granted. But at the same time, bittersweet, right? Because when you have something like that, it's tough to let it go.
Yeah, you think that it's going to go on forever. I mean, mortality never entered into my thinking in any way. Even look, I'm 68 now. I happened when I was 66, and you know, Judy was still working quite hard. I'd basically retired after COVID, and I had a little part-time job in a pool shop, so I'm a pool guy. Believe it or not many Scottish guys attend swimming pools, but so it was just yeah. I mean, I never took anything for granted. And I've never felt hubris in any way about my situation, but you know, and I always thought, you know, we're coming into that time of our lives where Judy would retire and we'd start traveling the world, and the boys were doing well, they were settled. We were robbed of that. We were robbed of that future we always dreamed of. Yeah.
And that's it. You know, people talk about losing a partner relatively young or relatively early in their marriage, and that obviously that is an enormous shock and a loss, and it's not fair. But when you're together for a long time, not only do you build your lives around each other and become kind of completely entwined in each other, you work really hard. You know, raising children, it's full of joy, but it's hard. Working, you know, doing the daily grind is hard, and you look forwards to this time when it will just be the 2 of you, and you can enjoy what you've built together. And to have that taken away from you, and to have it taken away in such a brutal way as well, because we'll come on in a moment to how Judy got sick and ultimately died. But you know, you must feel an almost, yes, I'm very grateful that I had, you know, 30 odd years with my wife, but also how do you understand how to be without somebody when you've been together that long? That must have been really, really tough.
Yeah, that was the learning experience that's still going on, of course. But
Of
you know,
course.
I am thankful for having such a long marriage and a long, happy marriage.
Mm.
I know you've been through a lot, Rosie, and you didn't have the time that I had, the time to be together that Judy and I had. So you have to be grateful in whatever ways you can. And
Yeah.
I certainly I don't feel sorry for myself in any way or form, but yeah, when it happened, it was the worst of the worst. I mean, it wasn't something that we could sort of ease into and get our head around. It was
Mm.
just
It was
relentless
quick,
from
wasn't it? So
yeah,
Judy, she had a glioblastoma, didn't she? Which is,
yeah.
people always talk about these as being very rare. But I noticed from your notes, and again, we will come back to this. I'm not trying to jump too much around in stories, but that in your social group, you know, other people who've had the same cancer. I hosted a retreat at my house, and there were 3 widows with the same type of cancer. I know a little boy who died from the same cancer. So to me, it doesn't feel rare. But is that because we're talking more about it? I don't know, but I'm interested to talk to you about what it was like getting a diagnosis like this, because it's one of those cancers that there isn't really a positive prognosis, is there? It's
It's a
when,
death
not if.
sentence, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's only a time. There's only a time factor attached to that. You're right. You know, and I'll say this now, but in case I forget to say it later. You find this hard to comprehend, but Judy lost a friend to GBM. The 3 letters in the English language are nobody ever has to hear from a doctor.
GBM.
Glioblastoma. Her friend Kate died from it about 4 or 5 years. Well, no more now, before Judy passed. And believe it or not, another friend is going through this right now. A friend of hers. They all work together. They were all friends together. They studied as dietitians together. That's 3 of them.
That
There's
seems.
there's no link attached to that. I'm not entertaining any conspiracy theories. And when someone mentions that, I just put that right to bed. But you know, if there'd been a couple more, there'd be something would have to be looked at in terms of how could this happen?
And I'm now thinking that Judy's friend had the same type of cancer. Now, is ignorance bliss? But she wouldn't have had that luxury, would she? Because she will have known firsthand what this looked like, what the decline was like, how
Yeah,
brutal this can be.
yeah.
Poor Judy and poor you. What
As soon as
what
those 3 letters were announced to us, she turned to me and said, "Oh my God, that's what killed Kate." I went, "What did you tell us? I'd never heard of
No.
glioblastoma."
So
And
what were her first symptoms? Because presumably she's, youngish and healthy-ish and, normal sort of midlife.
she was, to be honest, struggling a little bit health-wise. She had another weird thing. I even forgot to mention it in my notes. She was due to have a hip operation the week after she was diagnosed with the illness. So she'd been struggling to walk a bit because her hip was giving her such trouble, but she was getting to work and working long hours and coming home. And, I'd be in the kitchen making dinner so she could, come home, rest, and go to work the next day. And so looking forward to getting this hip op. But that probably masked some of the symptoms, the early symptoms that she was experiencing with mobility, because we all assumed it was her hip that was giving her these issues while waiting for this operation.
And sorry to interject, but just for the uninitiated, is mobility one of the first signs of this particular type of cancer?
It can be. It depends where it's sited in the brain. But with Judy, it was mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the key to everything that came after that. So what happened was it was the day before Australia Day, 2023. She'd woken in the night and she woke me up and said, "Derek, there's something wrong. I can't move. I can't get out of bed. I need to go to the toilet." So I said, "Oh, God, this bloody hip. Oh, don't worry, I'll take you to the toilet, honey." We had an ensuite. It was, go to the, but she virtually could not walk. And we knew something was wrong. Something was seriously not as it should have been. So we luckily enough, in many ways, we have a hospital only 5 minutes from us here, and emergency department. Took her down there, and they kept her in. And the next day, I'm back home, just waiting to come and bring her home, hoping that whatever happens, just, I was out doing the lawns, I think, and then my son Ewan comes rushing out. Dad, we've got to get to the hospital right away. Something's wrong. Gosh. We got there, and they started telling us they'd done a scan and they found lesions on our brain. And I'm thinking, lesions, right? What's a lesion's a tear? How's that associated with our hip? So they didn't want to say anything, but said, we're going to have to take you now to the big hospital down the roads, Sunshine Coast University Hospital. So she went off in the ambulance. We followed in the car. They did all sorts of tests because they were convinced there was a primary somewhere and the lesions were from a secondary tumour.
And at this point, if they use the word tumour, or are you still kind of skirting around this?
They used lesions for quite a while. They were
because I'm thinking lesions is kind of not as terrifying, is it? So it's a sort of a soft, but your bargaining side of your brain will have been going, oh, well, they're not saying tumour, so this, this is not a crisis.
It makes you wonder, but Judy had said to me, do not Google anything. Whatever you do not look on the internet. Let's let the experts decide. And she was freaking out big time. I mean, she knew something was. Yeah. So she had all the tests, and then they said, no, we can't find a primary. They checked for bladder, breast, skin cancer. Then he said, you're going to have to go down to Royal Brisbane. That's where the neurological department is. You're going to need a craniotomy. So, oh my God.
What's a craniotomy?
Removal of the tumour. So it's basically, taking into the skull and removing the brain to assess the pathology because they had nothing to go on.
God, that's scary though, isn't it? That's really scary.
Yeah, no, and now we knew, well, there's a problem with our brain. There's a problem, probably tumours on our brain. I mean, I did a quick look, okay? Just to say that there's many types of tumours, and I just left it at that. I thought, okay, yeah. Some can be benign, some can be treated, I'll leave it at that, right? So I went down and I stayed near the hospital for a week while they were getting her ready. And the head of neurosurgery there came to see us. I'll never forget this. He was going on holiday for 2 weeks. And he came in to see us before he went on holiday and said, don't worry, the team's going to look after you. You'll get the best care. And they are fantastic surgeons, neurosurgeons down there. But the first indication we thought something was going really bad was he came up to Judy and he put his hands on her legs. And he looked her in the face. This was without any tests being done. He said, I'm really sorry. I just don't think we can fix this.
Oh, my goodness.
And we looked at each other and we didn't know what to say. So what does he mean? Does he mean we can't fix your mobility? Or we can't fix what's happening? I mean, we didn't know. And we didn't want to know then, quite honestly. So anyway, he went off and I, believe it or not, started to, what I thought was, suffer the symptoms of a heart attack. I was getting all these tingles up my arm. I'd had it once or twice before, right? And the wardie there puts me in a wheelchair, takes me down to emergency. I was getting ECGs and everything. They were doing blood tests, and all I wanted to do was be back upstairs with my wife. This was the worst time because I thought, what's happening to me? What's happening to my wife? Why is the world falling apart?
You must have been terrified.
Anyway, I was fine, but I discharged myself, went back up. She had the craniotomy. Her best friend from Melbourne, Janet, came up to be with me for that whole week. And she was, she's like my big sister. I mean,
God bless Janet.
4 or 5 times she flew up to be with us. She was a nurse. She kept us, kept things on a level for us, and she was always there. But anyway, the craniotomy went well. She was actually speaking 2 hours after the operation. We thought, that's got to be a good sign, you know. Then they said, right, you're going to have to go back to the Sunny Coast Hospital. right, okay, back again, and ambulances and cars.
A full-time job.
Yeah, they didn't want to see us know about it. They'd done the operation. They're going to do the pathology. We had to wait 2 or 3 days. And that's when we learned it was I can't even say the word.
You can see that.
So the problem was her mobility. Now, I didn't know this, but I thought, well, okay, we'll start the radiotherapy, because they said radiotherapy is the key. He said, yeah, but the thing is, she's not well enough to travel to oncology. I said, well, what do you mean? We're in the hospital. He said, yeah, but you don't get on oncology in a hospital. You go from home to the oncology clinic. It's done. Oh. It's not in-house. I don't know if that's the same in Britain.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, well, the oncology department is right next door to the hospital. But we had to go, what they said was, she's not fit to travel. It was going to take an hour's travel from home to the oncology for 30 days in a row.
Oh.
And he said, quite honestly, that could kill her.
And this is all Judy within days.
Yeah, 30 days. But eventually the oncology team came and sat with us and said, we're not really sure it's going to work. This tumor you have is more aggressive, and it's in a really deep-seated part of the brain that we haven't seen this quite as bad before. So this was when, and Judy said, that's it. I'm going to die, am I? I said to them, give us something, give us some hope. And they said, well, we'll work on your mobility. So she did rehab in the hospital to try and see if we could get her to the stage that she could travel in a big taxi or whatever, or an ambulance every day. And Palliative were kind of hovering around, wanting to get involved. And Judy said, no, keep them away. I don't want to talk to them. Mm. Eventually we had to, because there was no other recourse. And we went straight into palliative care.
So from the date of her going to the hospital for these first checks through to her being under the palliative care, how long was that? Sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot and make you pull out dates, but it sounds to me very quick.
Less than 2 weeks, yeah.
Less than 2 weeks. And it's interesting that she was quite resistant to palliative care. I just spoke at an end-of-life conference and I watched some other speakers, and one of them was talking about this kind of resistance to hospice or palliative because people think that once they accept that, they're dying. Whereas actually the reality of it is that palliative care can often be used for years, can't it? It doesn't necessarily mean end-of-life care. But also I suppose there's a surrender in it. There's a surrender, and most people do find some peace because it enables the partner, the spouse, to become the partner and the spouse and not the primary carer for a little while. But it also strips you of kind of that hope, that last bits of hope.
We all want hope. We all just look for hope. I know I would. And
miracles, right? We read about miracles all the time. Why not us?
Yeah, no. I'll tell you, Rosie, but it was a big thing. But when the palliative team came in, there was about 4 or 5 of them, including psychologists and OT and the whole team. And the leader of the team came and she talked to us. And you know what? Judy felt something. She felt a great affinity to what was happening to her now. And she said, look, I think, and she'd heard about this hospice that we're talking about, which was not our local one, but it was about an hour from home. And she said, I've heard about Dove Palliative. They were supposed to be really, really good, the best in Queensland, possibly. So we went down and they found a bed for her very quickly. And she felt relaxed. Mm-hmm. She felt calm. But she was going through a lot of pain as well, I think from the hip, because that was still playing up big time. She wasn't getting much sleep. I was sleeping in the same room on a mattress, and I wanted to be with her 24/7. But, she wasn't getting much sleep. They were coming in to move her and change her position because of the pain. And She was on. They had to put her on fentanyl at one stage. It was so bad.
Bloody hell.
It was brutal.
And that really impacts their personality and their cognitive functioning. So this precious time that you have, you can feel like
in a sense that didn't happen right away. It was more the mobility and the fact that she couldn't move. But she was basically going to be in a bed for the rest of her life, how long that was going to be, and she wouldn't walk again. And we thought she wouldn't get out of bed again. But anyway, we were down there in this lovely place, and the staff were amazing. I mean, palliative care staff, they are the best of the very best.
Yeah.
I cannot express my love for them, more than what they did. But so we sort of got through that, and things stabilized, and our friends would come and see her, and we had some lovely times there. I'll tell you this one now. There's a couple of wonderful things happened during the course of the time we had. Judy had been studying to part-time for a PhD.
Wow.
Yeah, and she needed it really. I mean, she was fine with her job, but they insisted, well, at least you got to study for it. She was falling behind because of her work pressure and all the rest of it. But one of the first things she said when she was diagnosed, she said, well, that effing PhD is not going to happen, is it? I said, no, forget about that thing. I'm glad it's gone. It's driving you crazy. But not so her friends at work. They worked a little pixie magic behind the scenes, cut a few corners, finished a few papers. And one day, Fiona and a couple of the senior people from Sunshine Coast University came down and said, we've got some great news. And they had got the PhD put through. They'd finished it for her. And she handed me a felt pen and said, the whiteboard said, patient name Judy Tweedie. And Fiona told me what to do. I just wiped it out and put Dr. Judy Tweedie, Doctor of Philosophies.
Oh.
And she'd done it. She was in her hospital bed. She was dying of an incurable brain disease, but we had the most incredible afternoon.
I've got so many goosebumps now.
Even telling that again, it's got me. But it was such a tonic. And we had our mocktails, because Judy came up with these incredible mocktails to make, like Negronis and mojitos and stuff with very little alcohol, but she could still have a cocktail. So we had that, but things stabilized actually for a while, Rosie, and that's when things got a bit gnarly again, because they said, well, look, to be honest, you're okay for now. This is maybe about after 2 or 3 weeks in palliative. We're going to have to let you go for a little while. So maybe where can we go? And we just looked at each other. Well, where can we go? I mean, we could go home, but how do we manage that? And they said, well, we could see if there's a nursing home available. I said, that's not going to happen.
And what was the reasoning behind it? That they were full, or that?
The demand for beds was enormous. They had 15 beds there, but it's the place to go. And they were very sorry, but they said we can't keep you here while you're at this level. You're not really palliative. You're in between.
You're not dying enough.
You're not. Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, during all this, someone had got in touch with me. The social worker attached gave this organization my name. They were called Peace of Mind, a brain cancer charity. And so I'd been having some chats. They were there to help me basically navigate what I was having to do to help Judy and keep me sane. But when I told them about this, and they said, well, hang on a second. Okay, she's stabilized, right? There is a pathway that not many people know about. So, yeah, well, a pathway to at least find somewhere to go. In Australia, we have a wonderful institution now called the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it helps people with disabilities that are not on a pension to live their lives as full as possible. So this incredible woman managed to, within a week, which is some kind of record, got Judy $500,000 worth of funding for us to take her home. which we had no
Wow,
idea we could
teenage.
actually. Yeah, yeah, and they pushed it through in double speed time because she made the case this woman deserves your help and she needs your help, and she would not give up until we got the funding. So we got her home with round-the-clock care. We had a hospital bed. We made adjustments to the house. We got hoists. We got all the equipment. The boys and I became very proficient at getting her out of bed, into a chair, and outside our wonderful house, into the beautiful garden. And she could hear the birds every day, even though her consciousness was beginning to deteriorate. But we got her home for 10 weeks. And, you know, my son Ewan begged me at one stage. He said, Dad, please, can we get her home for just one day? Can we do it just one day? Get an ambulance, something. I said, I'm going to do it, son. I'm going to try my best. Don't worry. We got her home for 10 weeks with all the care in the world.
Amazing.
It was amazing people. So, you know, it's all about, when you're in this situation, it's the love of family and friends, but it's also the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
People you've never met that could make something like this possible.
Yeah, I agree. And to have that time together at home, but with the luxury is probably the wrong word, but the support of care coming in and adaptations in your home. So you weren't forced to make that awful decision of doing it all by yourself or her
No.
going into a nursing home. You were able to stay together as a family. How was Judy's mental state during this? Did you find that she was able to talk kind of coherently about end of life, or was it something that she didn't want to think about?
We didn't focus too much on end of life, but we knew it was happening. Her mental health was good. Her mental acuity, her cognitive was fine for a few weeks after the diagnosis, but we knew that the tumor, being the nature of what it is, when it spots so quickly through the brain, you know, she was experiencing some other symptoms, and behaviorally she didn't change too much. You know, I was really worried because obviously I was reading more about it by this stage. What's the point? You might as well prepare. And the diagnosis, by the way, we've been given between 10 and 18 months. Our friend Kate, I think, got 3 years. We had 18 weeks.
Oh my God.
And that is brutal. It's because it was one of the worst. It's one of the worst brain tumors, and it was one of the most aggressive, I think, you could possibly ever experience. So we didn't know it was going to come that quickly, but we talked about a lot. There was we still had plans. We talked every day. We kept each other on an even keel. It was just Derek and Judy, you know, as much as we could. She hated the food there too in Palliative, so I would try and get out and get her Caesar salads and things, or bring something in. When I got her home, that was my real job started, because I'm not a bad cook, not nearly as good as Judy, but I made it my goal to make her the best meal she could ever have every day. Because one thing that she could do, and it was the dexamethasone which did it, which is it's basically the drug they give to take the pressure off the brain. You can't be on it too long because it's a very high steroid, very strong steroid. But it gives you this incredible appetite. So I was making 3-course breakfast for her.
And
lunch.
often when somebody has cancer, that's one thing that it strips from them, is this appetite, and people find, you know, that's one of life's great joys. So, and also I guess it must have given you a job to do, because let's face it, we all want a job to do in this situation. We want to help, and for you to be able to and nourishing somebody, feeding them, you know, that's something.
I'd feed her and
do.
But that time too, by the time she was home, she was in, you know, full incontinence and needing fed, and we put her into our princess chair, this big, huge lounger thing, you know, with the pressure pads that we had for her. Wheel her around, take her outside, and the girls that looked after her, there was 7 of them, 7 of Judy's angels. They would come and go, and they became our best friends, you know, because by this time Judy didn't want to see anyone. Her condition was beyond. She anyone that came to the door, she just cried out in despair, "Don't let them in! Don't let them in!" You know, it's like.
Oh,
You know, but she was experiencing a lot of mental anguish. There's no question of that, and
yeah.
that was very hard to take.
Because I think
Seeing a decline.
as a
Yeah.
mother myself, that thought, and yes, your boys were in their early 20s, but they weren't grown up. They're not grown up. And I
No.
think to be, we know we're all going to die, but not many of us stare down the barrel of our own mortality in quite such a brutal way. Was she, and I'm trying, I am needling a little bit here, so do tell me if I'm
No, it's fine.
insensitive. How were your sons? And I know they're fully grown adults, so I won't ask you to put words in their mouths, but to see your mum like this, that's really tough, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Ewan, the oldest one in particular, amazed me because Ewan suffers a lot from anxiety in his life, and he's a bit of a loner. He's now in Japan, believe it or not. He got this opportunity to go and study and live and teach in Japan, which happened about a month after she died. But we knew it was happening, so Judy was all for it, And he had said, whatever happens, he's got to go. I said, he'll go, don't worry. So he's in Nagasaki. But he would be, he was home with us, and Ewan was back and forth. Connor, the youngest, he's doing a PhD in physics, believe it or not.
Blimey, smart family.
Yeah. So he was coming and going as much as he could, but he was a very pointy end of his degree, his honours degree at the time. And but anyway, when things got really tough with Judy, and I couldn't find the words, you know what? Ewan would come through. He would hear what was going on. He'd come through and go, "What's going on? What's all this about then? Come on, Mum. It's all right. Don't worry. We're all together. We're going to get through this. It's all right." And she just looked at him, with, oh. and then he'd go away, getting back to his room.
But that pride of having, created a young man, a young human that is kind and compassionate and, can be sometimes that calming voice. My eldest is 15, right? And sometimes when me and my 8-year-old daughter are at, loggerheads, he will come in and be the voice of reason. And sometimes you just need somebody that tiny step back. Were they able to talk about her mortality, or were they kind of still very much hoping there'd be a miracle?
Look, we had to drip feed them a little bit. We didn't really know too much ourselves until we knew the worst. But that was the hardest thing ever. In the hospital, it was. I sort of took them aside in the corridor. I said, "Look, I'm going to have to really tell you what we know for sure now." And they were shocked. Quite honestly, they had been hoping it was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And God, that was the toughest moment.
Worst conversation of your life, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I wish I was better even now with them, because we don't talk a lot about what's happened. I have tried with Connor, and he kind of deflects it a bit, and he says, "No, I'm fine, Dad. It's all right. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Everything's okay. Don't worry." I sense it isn't at times, even though when he comes back to see me, and he comes back every other weekend. It's brilliant. And we just have he's like my best mate. We just hang out and watch TV and go for dinner and have fun.
And I genuinely think that, 2 or 3 years post grief, sometimes for a lot of people, it is still too soon to have the conversations, to process the grief. I didn't go into therapy until I was about 3.5 years widowed, because I kept everything locked down. I felt like if I opened Pandora's box, I would never close it. And so you might find that, in future years, they do start to open up. But and actually going off to Japan to process your grief, what an incredible experience. Go just remove yourself from all that pain. But you must miss him.
Oh, well, yeah, this is when it got down to my bit of the story, I suppose. Well, will I get to the end of the story first?
Yeah, we go around. We're just going all over the place. I love it.
No, that's all right. Thankfully, he didn't have to start this until July. I mean, she died in June the 14th. So I just would hate the fact he'd had to leave and go and start this thing. As much as I wanted Judy to live as long as she could, I wanted them to be here. And so anyway, we had the way it finished up at home. Things were going quite well. I mean, things were stable, and we got to the final meal I cooked for her. By the way, was it was a cracker. It has her signature dish, which was paella.
Nice.
And I went and got the best ingredients known to mankind. You know, the best fish, the best chorizo, the best bomba rice, and got it all. As luck would have it, that evening, the girl that was looking after Judy was Spanish. Flora.
Did you just hand the ingredients over to her?
So I said, Flora, darling, you're going to help me cook the best paella that's ever been made. You're from Sevilla. You know it. She goes, oh, no, I've never cooked it. No, it's too difficult. Come on. I said, well, at least give me a hand. So anyway, I made it. And Judy, by this time, couldn't really communicate. But there was one thing she could do, and I'd always ask her at the end of a meal, did you enjoy that, darling? And she could do this or that. It was always this. But she would occasionally do that for a bit. You know, she'd be hanging on there for a while, and then it'd be, you know. But so, I mean, she could hear everything that was going on. She could hear the television. She couldn't talk. Her eyes were closed for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. Never.
But she could hear everything.
But hear everything.
Wow.
I don't know what was going. I can't imagine what was going on inside her head. You know, inside her mind. What was that? Was just the unknown thing. You know, and God. Anyway, so I made this paella, and that was the night that she had she developed a chest infection. It got really severe during the night. I had to get the ambulance. We took it up to the hospital, and then, yeah, I'm sorry, it's really bad. And we elected for a DNS approach, you know, so let things take its course naturally. And thankfully, there wasn't one available, but they found a bed in Palliative just at the last minute. So we got her down into the place that she loved with people. And some of the nurses that knew her wanted to change shifts because they knew Judy was back, and they came in. One in particular who was just an absolute angel was with me right to the end, and she talked me through it. So the night before she passed, we sat in vigil that night. We sat up all night long because they said, look, she's dying. It's only a matter of hours. Connor had to, unfortunately, well, she lasted the night. So this got to the Tuesday. Connor had to go back down because he was facing this huge exam in quantum field theory. And he said, I've got to do it, Dad. I said, off you go. You've done enough. The night before, all through the night, all through the morning, he sat holding her hand while on his laptop, just looking at her. Never let go of her hand, just doing his final revision. Ewan was so exhausted. I said, look, you go home. I'll stay with her today. I think it's going to happen today. I'll let you know. And it happened on the Tuesday, it's a Monday, Tuesday morning at 1:30. I rang Ewan, and I said, don't come down, your mum's passed. So this was the first time I'd ever seen anyone die. But I held her hand right to the end. The staff were great, helping me through the signs when it was getting really close, and they knew within half an hour when it was going to happen. It was incredible. And I was there for her last breath.
I'm so sorry, Derek. I feel quite emotional just walking through it with you.
Thank you, Rosie. I know you've been through the ringer.
Well, I've never watched somebody die, Derek. I can't. I can't put myself in your shoes, but I can imagine it, and I can imagine how powerless that must feel. Do you feel in some way that there is a kind of an honour in being with her at the end? You know, that you were there holding her and with her, because I don't know. We again, at this conference I went to, what they asked some of the students to do was to think about what you want at the end, because it's never too soon, right? Well, I found myself thinking, I want to not be in pain, and I want to be with people I love. That's all. I want to go to, you don't want to think too much about your own mortality. But I think to be holding your wife's hand as she left the earth, whilst I wish you could have stayed, I think there's a beauty in it somewhere.
You used the right word, honor, but it was probably, but I'd take that even further. I've never done anything really exciting or special or achieved any greatness in my life, but that was my greatest achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Those 18 weeks when I was with her every day and right up to the final moment, I don't care what comes next. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've
and
done
do you
it.
feel
and
that
she would have done the same for me, but she would have been a hell of a lot better at it.
Different, not necessarily better. We're different.
No, I mean, one thing I said to her every day, and I meant it. I said, that Kate Bush song always came into my head every day. Running up that hill.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics. If I could make a deal with God, I'd get him to swap. I meant it. I meant every word, because it would have given me the ultimate thing I could have done for her was to let her live, but I couldn't do that.
No, we can't do that. And the only thing you can give them is as much as you possibly can, is to give them a good death, and then to live your life fully and well, and to make sure that your sons do, because it's so easy to fall into that. This terrible thing has happened to me. What's the point? What's the point? And that must have been quite the challenge for you, because your kids have left home, your wife's gone, you're not working. How did you find purpose? How did you get up in the morning? What kept you going?
I don't know. It was like a blur, really. But I was interested to hear you say you took 3.5 years before you saw access counselling. And, I was offered it all the time. And I thought, yeah, I will. I'll find the right moment. So far, I haven't. But it's not because I'm stubborn or stoic or anything like that. But it was weird, because this house that I still love it now. I don't want to leave here. But it became a house of pain, really. I didn't want to be here. The place haunted me, the memories haunted me. And, we'd gone from a house full of a family to just me.
Yeah,
just
rattling around.
Yep. And I thought, look, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to sit in your grief and face up to it. Something I've always kind of thought, and it's helped me in the past, is that word catharsis.
Mm-hmm.
That dealing with whatever you've got to deal with, however bad it is, but getting through it and coming out the other side, because you're going to be better if you really face up to something. So I thought, no, you're going to do it the hard way, and you're not going to drink any more than you have been. You can have your weekend glasses of wine and maybe a few more if you like, but you're not going to go down that route. You're going to ask for help when you need it, but you're going to sit here and come to terms with everything as best you can. And I kind of did. But, people were looking out for me all the time. I always had someone to ring when things were getting really bad. But the thing that's most noticeable about grief when it was coming for me was the way you lose control of your thoughts completely.
What, like the brain fog?
Yeah, well, you cannot control. I don't want to think about that, but you were powerless to stop thinking about it.
I see, like the intrusive thoughts popping in.
Yeah, and not being able to sort of push them away. I had to find a way to do that, and I think I did, and I do now. But they just came unbidden. They came at me, and I was reliving stuff I had no intention of wanting to do, and I just had no control about how I was thinking and what I was doing, and they were the worst times. But I thought, this is part of it. This is what you're going to have to deal with. And obviously, as you know, time gets you there over time. And it came to the point when I thought, well, and your friends are there for you, but obviously they've got their own lives to go on with, and they can't be there for you all the time. I was sometimes I'd go by a week without having spoken to anyone other than maybe the boys, and so this is no good. There's only one guy that can change this, and that's me. So I tried a couple of meetup groups, and that wasn't for me at all. They were too old and weren't my people, really. Eventually, as the clock wore on the next year, I thought, well, I'm not going to be here on my own. And Judy would want me to at least look for someone that I could possibly make a connection with. So I started the online dating thing, yeah. And, yeah. Actually, I came in with quite an open mind. It's been a positive experience. I would say for women, it's probably a lot more different.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Gentlemen, we don't want to see them.
Yeah. And some of the stories I've heard, I mean, some of these women should write books and do podcasts on their experiences.
I'm sure they do, because I was thinking the same thing. I thought when I start dating again, which is, not on the cards right now, but it's, same, I don't want to be on my own forever. Then I think I'm going to have to document this. I'm going to have to turn this into something because, widowed, over 40, dating. Oh, Christ. I think I'll just have a cat.
Yeah. I could not believe some of the stories these wonderful women were telling me. But, every woman I met was an empowerment for me, because I hadn't actually dated any widows the first few I saw, but it was just great to be out talking to somebody and getting to know somebody. And
feeling alive again as well, like a human being, not like a grieving husband, not like a carer, not dad, just to feel like you are a human being.
Yeah. And, I mean, nothing came. Well, there was one relationship I thought was going to work out, but I got a bit blindsided by that one. But it didn't affect, and I got a bit too carried away, I think. Maybe a bit
that's
too
easily done as well, because you're coming out of a relationship of great love. You've been in that relationship for a long time. How do you go back to the sort of playing it cool, dating, casual stuff? It's a big jump, right?
I don't know. Look, I can talk the hind legs off a donkey, so I've got that in my kit bag, I suppose. I'm not shy about having a conversation about anything. But these women really helped me, and they helped me discover me. Not that I was using them as some kind of social experiment or anything. They were genuinely interested in their lives, but they, for whatever reason, had been divorced or on their own for years, but they were just loving life, doing this, that, and the next thing, filling up their days with a million things that I could never do. But I thought, well, there's a way out of this. I did eventually meet a widow, a double widow at that.
Double widow, goodness me.
That very interesting story. And I thought, wow, this is it. This is the answer. I need to be with a widow. No, you don't, Derek.
Okay.
That's not the... You forget this. You're discounting a million other things that come into a possible relationship. You've been through one experience together, yeah. But anyway, I had to sort of call out halt to that one. And it's been a process. I'm happy to say I have found someone.
You have. Congratulations. Are we able to share her name, or is it secret?
Kim.
Hi, Kim.
So it's working. I mean, who knows how it's going to end up, but, we got on very well. We've been on a holiday. We went to Bali together. And we've had
I know about Bali.
Did I mention that? Did I mention I was in Bali?
May have that in an email, Derek, as it was piddling down in the UK, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's practically a suburb of Brisbane now. It's a great place, but there's too many Australians there. So look, life is certainly... I mean, you can tell I'm not the grieving widower at the moment, but it does get gnarly, as you know. And,
Sorry, how did the boys react to you dating? Were they encouraging, or?
They do not want to know.
Fair enough.
They have. Well, Connor's met Kim very briefly, but it's very awkward for them, and I get it. I mean, I always put myself, when I'm not sure about a situation, I always put myself in the other person's shoes, and I can imagine what it'd be like for them. It's mortifying.
Yeah, nobody
Plus,
wants to
with
think
the
of your
grief thing,
dad doing that. But
yeah.
and also, do you think? I mean, have you had a conversation about how this very much isn't replacing their mum, and essentially they've left home. You what's your option to kind of wear your veil and your sackcloth and it's you have to kind of respect the children or the young adults and their views and their feelings, but also they are going to build their own lives, and we can't just sort of sit in stasis forever because that's what other people expect. But I know it's
Exactly.
tricky.
And I'm happy that they have a really clear and exciting future ahead for both of them. I don't have to worry about how they're going to go. They'll cope with what I've been through, I know, and they are coping with it. And maybe we'll all sit down one day and have a really good talk about it in depth. But they don't want that yet, and
Not
that's
yet.
fine. One thing we were able to do, actually, the first Christmas, I know you've talked about this in podcasts, how Christmas can be the toughest, The first one, it was easy for us because Ewan was in Japan. I said to Connor, right, we're going to go to Japan for Christmas because they don't celebrate Christmas in Japan, do they? They have all the lights and all the fun, but they don't celebrate it.
I didn't know this.
No, because they're not a Christian country.
Yeah.
They're Shinto Buddhist. So we took off to Nagasaki and Hiroshima and all these wonderful places and spent time with Ewan. And on Christmas Day, we went shopping for our Christmas presents.
Because the shops are open. Amazing.
Shops are open, yeah. Go figure. Sadly, I mean, Judy's mother is a survivor of this too, and Daphne has been through a hell of a lot. I'm there for her as much, I try and help her all the time. We're very close now, maybe closer than we were before Judy was alive. And she's lost a husband now and a daughter. I mean, I can't imagine how she gets along every day, but she's living an amazing life too. So, we got Christmas coming up. There'll be no one will be here, but we'll do something anyway.
Yeah, on the beach. We have beach weather.
Yeah, it's a bit sad really being on the beach on Christmas Day. I mean, I'd rather go and find a snowfield somewhere.
Would you?
It never snowed in Edinburgh at Christmas, so I don't know what I'm worried about. But it's always raining.
We went away. We went to Cape Verde the first Christmas, and same thing really. How do you start doing traditions? Our house felt wrong. Ben's mum's house felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. So we just, I can remember wrapping all the stockings, and packing the stockings because obviously you've got to keep the magic alive even though you're grieving, and flying out on holiday and just, it was amazing because I think it's a little like childbirth. You look back and think it was amazing, but it was hard, bloody work. But we needed it. We needed to not be at home. And this year, the children have said, can we be at home for Christmas? So my mum and dad and my brother will come over. I tried to persuade them to go out for a meal, but apparently we're cooking. And it would just be a calm, quiet, low-key Christmas. I think there is a temptation to just run away from all of it and to create this kind of different, I ran in the sea one Christmas Day, and like it really stood up for you saying, the need to sit in it, the need to sit in your grief and not continuously run from it. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. 7.5 years on, I'm trying to just sit with it a bit because if you can't outrun it forever. I tried drinking, I tried sex, I tried literally a marathon. You name it, I tried it to run out this grief, and it still caught me anyway.
It is, something you'll never overtake, but it modifies and changes as we get through it. And no, I was always a huge Christmas fan. I mean, I'm going to go completely bonkers and do all the lights again. I put even more lights today. I don't know why.
I do.
I'm the only one in the street. I'm the only one in the street that puts Christmas lights out.
Oh, you've got to go for it then.
So they must think I've had a breakdown or something. I don't know. I quite enjoy it, and whatever happens, Christmas will be okay.
And it's all about finding that joy, isn't it? That little bits of joy. It might not be the Christmas that you would have had a few years ago, but you might see friends and family you haven't seen for ages. For me, it's seeing the kids get their presents. It's I quite like the world slowing down for a bit because I feel like everything is just a million miles an hour, and at Christmas it just. Aside from the wrapping, the shopping, the cooking, all that sort of stuff. But
craziness.
Yeah. And don't get me started on all the nativity plays and the no uniform days.
Oh, I know, but yeah, it's just find a little bit normal and every day, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you
And
know,
it
we're
sounds
getting
to me, and I don't want to patronize you, but it sounds to me like you are incredibly emotionally intelligent, because you have looked at the rubble of your life, if you like, and you've seen what you needed to do and you've done it. And that is incredibly powerful, because so many people would have and do, and again, I'm not casting shame on those that do, because we grieve differently, but you would have had the perfect excuse to have those extra glasses of wine, to just lay on the sofa, then the whiskey comes out, and suddenly your life is so small and isolated. And I never met Judy, of course I didn't, but from everything you've told me about her, that's not what she would want for you.
No, I think, I can't recall if we ever spoke those words, but we possibly did. I know we felt it. One of the magical things that happened, there was moments that happened between us that are beyond experience. I couldn't even, it was beyond love. Some mornings she would wake up and, about dawn, and I'd be, I could hear her sort of stirring a little bit in her bed. And I don't know what it was. I'd look in her face, and she changed a lot. She'd put on a lot of weight because of the food and the drugs and everything, which I think I had 12 drugs I had to administer to her every day just to keep her alive. But I'd look in her face, and it was like an inner radiance, and she looked so young. It was incredible. And she'd smile. And there was this intense feeling that I'll never experience. I've never experienced it before, or I never will. So the powerful emotions that come with all these things that happen when times get tough.
Do you have, and I'm asking this of a lot of guests at the moment because it's something I'm skirting around, the idea of going to see a spiritualist or a medium or anything like that? Do you have any pull in something like that, or are you a bit of a skeptic?
One of my friends in Scotland did just that. He's a bit of a nutter anyway, and he said, "Oh, Judy appeared," and I won't. Well, I can tell the swear words.
Oh, you can swear.
They were choice. They were very choice, and I immediately shut them down and said, "Don't you ever tell me anything like that again."
Yeah. I get that, and I would have reacted very much the same way. And actually, my mother-in-law went to see one, possibly as long as 18 months ago, and she messaged me with what had taken place, and I couldn't even look at it. And so actually, she kind of gave me the courtesy of writing it so that I could look at it when I was ready. But it had somebody sort of come to me or spoken to me and told me something like that, I think I'd have found that very jarring as well, because if it's a lot.
Look, I know it's very judgmental of me to say that. I mean, you might have felt some odd moments too during the course of your journey, some inexplicable things.
No, and that's what's annoying me, because I'm thinking, why have I got nothing?
Well, I have.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of a man of science. I believe in science, and I'm not religious in any way. And spiritualism is just a bit of a
See, I was very much where you are, Derek, very much. And then I don't know, this pull to do something, I don't know, but I figure it's £50. So that's the most I'm going to lose if it's bullshit. And the problem I have is, and this is not me saying, that I'm famous in any way, but I'm Googleable. You put my name into Google, you can read my entire story. So there's a skepticism, of course, but I just feel like, how can I be skeptical if I've not tried it? So
sure. I just think these people are very good. They're very perceptive, I think.
And
they pick up on things that would go by most of us. But I don't know. I haven't got the answer for everything. I know that. And,
I'm just curious. I'm curious because some very, very scientific, very smart, very measured people I know have done it and have had a positive experience. But I'm also aware of how much we want to. How that bias, because you want it so much. Of course I do. So, but I just it's one of those little itches I've not scratched, and I think I'm gonna do it. It'll make good content for the podcast anyway.
There's no right or no wrong, is there?
No, and you've got to do what brings you comfort.
Exactly. Yeah. And no, look, there's one thing, a little anecdote. I was speaking to Kim in my car, the other day there. And I don't often do it. I was driving to a quiz or something. I'm usually phoning from home. And then, funny, the car I drive is Judy's car. I've given my car to her mother so she can drive that. So anyway, I'm talking away, and all of a sudden, the phone hangs up. So I dialed back. I said, "Oh, sorry about that. It's dropped out." Talking away again. It drops out again. It's like, and I could see it on the screen. It just suddenly it moved from in call to in call, and it did that twice. I said, "I don't think Judy's very happy about me talking to you in our car, Kim, so we'll continue with this later." I mean, that was weird. That's never happened before. But, these little things I find quite, I kind of cherish them. I don't know why.
Comforting, because none of us want to believe that they've gone forever. We want to believe that some entity, some essence, that's kind of gross word, but some part of them has continued. And I have difficulty with this. They're always with you. Oh, I hope not, because that would be weird. But I like the idea that at some points, there might be, I don't know, I don't really believe it, and I want to. So I think this is where I've got the stumbling block. And someone said to me, "What do you want? Why do you want to go? What do you hope to get from it?" Because he's not going to tell me he's okay, is he? He's dead. But, will there be some peace? Will there be, I'm proud of you. Is that what I need to hear? I don't know. And I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it, and then figure it out afterwards.
And why not? Because I think the universe, as much as we know about it, is a much stranger place than anyone could imagine.
Exactly. And the energy has to go somewhere. That's the other, nobody can explain what happens to it. So and it might be that I come out thinking, bloody hell, that was 50 quid. I could have gone and got my nails done, but I'll know.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's all right, isn't it? Derek, it's been a delight to talk to you today. You are a lovely, lovely man, and I am so sorry about Judy. I really wish that you were swanning about in your retirement together and having a wonderful time, but I trust that you will have a wonderful time. I think you're that kind of man.
Well, it's been a joy to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this. And one thing certainly, I find reading very difficult.
Same.
Yeah, because you can't concentrate. So 2 books, actually, I was going to mention. Nick Cave's book, which was called, what's it called? Love, Grief, and Carnage.
Like the name of that one.
Oh, Nick Cave, the musician?
Yeah, I didn't know he'd done a book.
He lost 2 boys. 2 boys.
2 boys?
2 boys. 1 suicide and 1 accident. And he wrote this incredible book.
What?
So that book I managed to read it, and it gave me so much, I was so involved in reading it. It gave me so much hope and so much courage from that. The other one was the actor Richard E. Grant, who lost his wife. Yeah, Pocket Full of Happiness.
I'm trying to get him to come on, actually. I'd love him to come on the podcast.
Oh, he'd be fantastic, because the story of that book is a revelation about his journey with his wife's cancer. But, podcasts have been massive too, and I love listening to you. But you're my second favorite. I can't go past The Rest is History. I've got to.
Is that your favorite podcast, The Rest is History?
The Rest is History. The big daddy of them.
All right, it's fine. I'm not offended. I have a book out next year, so you can read that as well.
Great.
It's called Widowed as Fuck, and I've used starred on the front, but it's a sort of hybrid memoir, lots of stories.
I love the title of it. It's kind of the irreverence, but
it's got to be, hasn't it? There's a million books on grief out there with flowers and feathers and things. I wanted something that it's hot pink and it screams, I'm widowed as fuck.
Yeah. Well, no, you're doing a magnificent job, and I love the interviews you're doing.
Thank you so much. And if I ever make my way to the enormous country of Australia, I'll let you know. It's a big dream of mine to go. I have a horrible feeling I wouldn't come back, though. I think I might like it.
Well, I'm
Might
happy
do
to
a
say
new
I live in the
therapy, never
best
come back.
part of Australia, so you'd be very welcome up this way.
Thank you so much. I definitely wasn't fishing for an invite. I always try and get myself invited whenever anyone lives in a cool place. Derek, it's been a delight. Thank you so much for talking to me today. For anybody who's listening out there, if you have got questions that have come up from this episode, or if you just want to talk to me, my inbox is open and I can pass anything for Derek over as well. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back with you next week with another episode from the coalface of widowhood. Big thank you, Derek, for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you very much, Rosie. All the best.
And lots of love to you all out there. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you think someone else may benefit from this, please do share. We'd also really appreciate a quick review. It helps more people find the show. Thank you again and see you next time on Widowed AF.